I make it through the gauntlet of prostitutes, and then I cross the street. And as I cross the street, I get halfway across, and two hookers lock onto me. They start walking toward me, and I make the X with my arms, and I shake my hands, and I'm laughing. I say, no, 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 no. And they both laugh and smile and turn away.
Oh, at least they picked up that you... Perhaps they thought, big American man.
Yeah. And anyway, so there were actually three on the other side of the intersection. I forgot one because she just sort of stood there and looked at me and turned away.
You should have chosen that one.
I should have.
No, she was the pit boss.
Yeah, she might have been. The pit bosses are not always obvious, but they're there.
Anyway, commanderin.
Yes. I'm Kelle DeLuca.
I'm Nate Burgess.
I didn't even make it a second.
And I, as always, am Sean Watson.
And we are commanderin. Yeah! Commanderin. Yeah! Thanks for listening, everybody. We focus on topics the community wants to hear about and talk to interesting people along the way. But never, ever talk about three banned topics, do we, gentlemen? Religion, politics, and Hearthstone.
You can find us on iTunes, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, MTGcast, and whatever filthy holes of the dark web you hang out on.
And you can find us by searching for commanderin.mtg.podcast.
That is true.
So we have an excellent show for our listeners this week. We are going to be talking about the Commander 2015 set. There have been quite a few spoilers since last we spoke. In fact, the entire set has been revealed. But first, a couple of items. As we just mentioned, there have been spoilers. We'll cover that. We want to make a special note about the quality.
The quality of the waveform of the audio, not pertaining to the quality of the intellectual merits of our discussions.
Right, which, as we know, is
zero.
So
started off okay and has gradually descended ever since. So, you know.
Yeah, in the last 2 minutes or so, the podcast has gone straight downhill, and we expect everybody has tuned out by now. But for those of you continuing to listen, I am in Japan. I'm actually in a conference room, and so the audio quality will be a little bit off from what we're used to. Hopefully you won't hear some of the same distortions you did last time, because I was actually in my hotel room, and I thought it was silent, but it wasn't, was it, guys?
No, it wasn't.
So there may be a bit of an echo. Levels might be a little bit off, and we'll do what we can in post-recording editing, but please bear with us. And one more thing. So those of you who like to connect with us on Skype and occasionally play test a deck or three, we've created a brand new Skype account. It's called commanderin.mtg.podcast. So search Skype for that. Add us as a contact. We'll add you as a contact, and maybe we can play test some games. This is how we met some of our other listeners, and actually, this is how some of us met. Period.
I was going to say, it's how you met one of the hosts of this show. Hi. So yeah,
that's hard.
I've told the story before, but I reached out to the members of another project Phil was involved with, and he was kind enough to reach out to me, and here I am. Sorry about that.
It's hard to believe that was almost over a year now. It was a little over a year ago. Yeah.
Strange. I know.
Yeah, it's been great though. And so we encourage all of our listeners to connect with us on Skype. Nate and Sean and I are available at way different times. Sometimes they overlap and we record an episode. Okay.
We've got nothing to talk about this week, have we? No, nothing big's happening, Commander?
No. Nothing major has happened to our format in the last week or so. Just all of the spoilers for the newest Commander set called Commander. And now they've changed the name again, so now it's just Commander, but now it's parentheses 2015. as opposed to last year, which I think was the 2014 edition or something like that.
And by the time you listen to this episode, these cards will probably be available for you to put into your own filthy hands.
Mm-hmm. Yes, in fact, by the time this drops, Commander 2015 will have been on store shelves for a day or two.
Yeah.
It's hard. Time is weird here in Japan, so.
The editing process makes it all wibbly-wobbly.
Thanks, Doctor.
Just to recap. So in 2011, Wizards of the Coast released their first Commander set, which featured the wedges, and that's where we got the Mimeoplasm, Zedru the Great-Hearted, and several others that are now famous cards in Commander. They were surprised at the popularity, and in 2012, to fill the gap, they released something called the Commander's Arsenal, which included all foil versions of some of the special cards from that first set, including some that have become staples and a few other doodads like life counters and sleeves and whatnot. In 2013, they released the Shards. So again, 3-color decks like the wedge set from 2011. And this is when many of our listeners probably started playing Commander, because that was a very popular set and it just sort of exploded. In 2014, they did something crazy, 2 things crazy. They released monocolored decks, which everybody at the time, the community was kind of down on monocolor Commander decks. But they also included, for the first time, planeswalkers that could serve as commanders. That's where Doretti and the new Teferi and Nahiri come from, as well as
Freyalise and Obnixilis.
Oh yeah, and Obnixilis. I forget him because he's the slowest of the bunch. And then this year, they decided it's time to go to 2-color decks, and they released a set, or by the time you're listening to this, we'll have released a set that features the enemy color pairs. So we have an Izzet deck, right? Actually, we
Use
have
the colors.
Black and white.
Phil's going to try and remember. I'll tell you. It's Orzhov, which is black and white. Izzet, which is blue and red. Simic, which is blue and green. We have Boros, which is white and red. And we also have, bringing in the set, Golgari, which is black and green.
Right.
Isn't that right, Phil?
It is. It's right. You took the words right out of my mouth. So this is actually a pretty exciting set, or some of the cards at least are very exciting, and some are, as usual, maybe not our particular play style, but we'll get into that. The other neat thing about this set is they introduce a new mechanic. Last year, they introduced a new mechanic as well called Lieutenant, and that was a creature that gives you benefits, that gives itself and maybe the rest of your team benefits if your commander is in play. This time, the mechanic is experience counters. Sean, do you want to say anything about experience counters, or Nate?
Nate, go for it if you've got anything to say.
So experience counters.
I do have one thing. So how experience counts work is it's a triggered ability. Each of the 5 cards that use experience counters have a different trigger to give you an experience counter. An important thing to note is you, the player, gets the experience counter, not the commander. So once you've got an experience counter, there is nothing that can get rid of it, as you are not permanent and you cannot be targeted there's no cards. There might be a corner case somewhere that someone knows of.
Which is particularly important.
Khan liberated. He'll get rid of your experience counters by restarting the game.
Right. That's an important distinction, because in this set there's actually a card that removes counters. A fairly brutal card.
We'll talk about that in a bit, I think. But yes, it's a good card.
Yeah, we will. All right. So, Nate, you really like this first precon we have set up. Why don't you introduce it?
All right. This is, it's an okay deck. It's not my favorite, though. Call the Spirits. It's a black-white enchantments deck, and the feature commander is Daxos the Returned. Poor Daxos. He got zombified, and now he has to wear a mask because his face is presumably all messed up. And he still wants people to talk to him, so he needs to wear a mask. And that's what zombies do. That's what sentient zombies have to do. And he's a legendary creature, zombie soldier. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you, the player, get an experience counter. And if you have one colorless and a white and a black, you can put a white and black spirit enchantment creature token onto the battlefield. And its power and toughness are each equal to the number of experience counters you have. And Daxos the Returned is a 2/2.
Take that, Heliod. This is such a better ability than Heliod's ability.
Yeah, it is. Vigilance is nice in Commander, but this is a good card. This is a very good card.
Yeah.
This is the deck I was most excited about, actually. Call the Spirits.
In addition to Daxos the Returned, the other two legendary creatures in the deck are a reprint of Teysa, Envoy of Ghosts. She's the big one sitting on the chair. And Karlov of the Ghost Council, who is, he's white and a black 2/2 legendary creature, Spirit Advisor. And he goes into life gain decks. Basically, he's just going to be Aloro's flunky for the rest of existence.
Oh, he'll be a good extort deck, Commander.
No.
Oh, I can see a deck with this guy.
Yeah, but that deck will lose.
So
Challenge accepted.
I think he's a Voltron commander. I absolutely think he's a Voltron commander.
All right.
I think it's very interesting. It's a Voltron life game.
Yeah, exactly.
So you'll be gaining lots of life.
I like the fact that the art on Carlo of the Ghost Council makes him look like one of the Scolari brothers from Ghostbusters 2.
So, as an additional comment, I'll say that the new Daxos is solid, and a lot of the cards I would consider for a new Daxos build are, surprise, actually in this precon deck. So, in other words, out of these 5 precons, in my humble opinion, this one is closest to being a finished deck.
It's interesting. I started brewing when I just saw the Daxos, which was going to be a creatureless other than the man himself deck, and like an Academy Rector and that sort of thing. And I thought, well, perhaps, are there too many creatures in the deck? It feels like, see, when Jaleva came out from the last round of cards, it felt like 2 decks. You had Jaleva and Nekasar, and they sort of smushed them together. And there's one deck, it didn't really work. Whereas if you separated them 2, you could build 2 really nice, playing very different style decks from the same, like $40, however much they cost on your side of the pond box. This one feels like that to me. It'd be interesting to see, though. Daxos is...
Well, I think all of the precons were like designed as a, like half or a third of a certain type of deck and a half or a third of a different type of deck, and they happen to be in the same colors. And here's the precon that introduces the player to both of these approaches, and you can and probably should expand on one or both of those approaches.
Yeah, this time, and I wonder if I wonder if the design team was under pressure to do this, but this time the decks don't feel as focused as they were previously. Each of the precons before kind of had like an 80% approach, so to speak, where they focused on one theme for about 80% of the deck, and then the rest was a sub-theme that kind of played well with the other commanders. This one definitely feels like they were going for enchantment only, but then decided that might have been too bold or too risky.
I can see that they are doing some intentional switching of cards to make people want to buy both of the decks in a certain color. Like, for example, this deck with Daxos, who's a legendary zombie soldier, instead of putting the dread summons that mills and creates zombies, they put the Deadly Tempest, which is the board wipe, which is what the black-green commander would prefer. But instead, they got the dread summons, and yeah.
Oh, so you think that they're anticipating people are going to be parting these out?
I think they recognize that specific card pairs would be better in one deck or the other, and they switched those to try to
you think that's
drive up cross sales.
Do you think that's a cynical sort of move for that, or do you think they went, well,
maybe I'm cynical for recognizing it, but I think it is a thing. that they're doing.
I don't think you're cynical for making an observation, but it would be a cynical move from Wizards if they were doing that. Dread Summons is good in that Golgari deck, though, isn't it? Like, it's a token
But the
deck.
Deadly Tempest would be better with the Commander as the lead, and the Dread Summons would be better with Daxos as the lead.
I'm not sure about that.
Well, we're going to have to playtest this.
Yeah.
Aren't we? I am noticing now that Skull Clamp is in a deck, but it would go much better in the Simic deck, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, and of course, one of our listeners has written in, he sort of disagrees with this, but it may be that Skull Clamp goes in every Commander deck. All right,
yeah,
so
okay.
Didn't the monocolored decks that they printed last year all have Skull Clamp in?
like 2 or 3 of them did, I think?
Sure, at least 3 of them did. I think it might have been in all 5.
Well, it's worth including, that's for sure. So how would you play this? I mean, I jotted down a couple of notes about playing this, and it's really very straightforward, right? You play with Daxos as the commander, and then just cast enchantments.
Yeah, and the deck includes a lot of enchantment creatures that would be on the list of things I would include.
Yeah, a lot of the Constellation from the Theros block made it into here.
He's missing Agent of Erebos.
That's a good card.
Yeah, you notice that. So when Wizards builds these, they try to anticipate what people will find the most fun. And you note that they did not put any mass graveyard exiling into the deck. Why is that? Maybe it's because graveyards are fun to play with.
Because I'm cynical and they want people to buy other precon decks that would complement this zombie strategy.
Wait, this zombie strategy?
Well, it's zombie support.
Agent of Erebos?
Yeah, he's a zombie.
Yeah, he is. I mean, but what I'm saying is, I'm poking at you with Marieki Ribéry there. They didn't put any graveyard removal cards in because playing with the graveyard is fun, Nate. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
My 2 favorite cards, I went ahead and I picked a brand new card and a reprint card, are Thief of Blood, which is 4 and black. It's a creature vampire, so maybe this will see some use outside of this deck. It's flying. It's only a 1/1, so why would we pay 6 mana for a 1/1? Well, good listeners, it's because as Thief of Blood enters the battlefield, remove all counters from all permanents. Ba-boom. Goodbye, Animar, Ulashed,
Garve.
all planeswalkers.
Is a player a
See ya.
permanent?
No, a player is not a permanent, so you get to keep your experience and poison counters.
All right.
And Thief of Blood enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each counter removed this way. Oh, also, not just goodbye all those cards, but hello, Marit Lage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also Karmic Justice. I chose that as kind of my favorite. It's probably not the one that'll see the most use out of it, but Karmic Justice is great. It's an old enchantment. For 2 and a white, it's whenever a spell or ability an opponent controls destroys a non-creature permanent you control, you may destroy target permanent that opponent controls. So it puts the brake on destroying my stuff.
That's a really good card. It's quite expensive to buy as well, so it's nice that it's getting a reprint.
Yeah, because I'll be buying this precon, and so I'm obviously getting a Karmic Justice, and it was a $10 card or something. I'm sure it's going to drop.
A good card to pair with Karmic Justice is Martyr's Bond, which does the same pretty much. Yeah, they sacrifice a permanent of the same type, but it was also a Commander precon card.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to see some of these older cards like Karmic Justice, which was originally an Odyssey card, get a reprint, which is very cool.
Yeah, it's very nice.
I would say, like Phil, I got excited and picked my favourite new card and my favourite reprinted card from each of these precon decks. So for Call the Spirits, my favourite new card is Grasp of Fate. It's a white enchantment for 1 and 2 white. When Grasp of Fate enters the battlefield, for each opponent, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent that player controls until Grasp of Fate leaves the battlefield.
Each opponent. I love it.
It's great. It's like Quarantine Field, but a lot less mana intensive. So how much mana would it be to get a Quarantine Field of the same value? 2 white plus 2 for each opponent. So 8 mana. This does it for 3 mana. high quality.
I like it.
Okay.
Your next card, I like this card too, but I knew you liked it better.
It's like you know me
I think
so well,
everybody
Phil.
likes this next card.
Yeah, this card was an expensive card, dollar pounds wise, to buy. So seeing a reprint in a pre-con product is very welcome. It is Black Market. 3 and 2 black for a black enchantment. Whenever a creature is put into a graveyard from play, put a charge counter on Black Market. So that's any creature, not just ones you control. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add 1 black to your mana pool for each charge counter on Black Market. Wowzers. That can get you a lot of mana very quickly.
Gotta kill it.
Yeah, that's one that's got to die. Backing up what Nate was saying before, that's a card that feels like it should be in the Golgari deck.
Yeah.
Which has a sacrifice your own creatures sub-theme going on.
Yeah.
Nate, maybe you're bringing me round to this theory of yours.
Well, why make people buy 1 deck when they can buy 2?
That's true. Or be sad like me and
Or
buy
3.
all 5. Yeah. Actually, I probably won't bother with the white-red. We'll talk about that when we get to it. So, yeah, Black Market is an excellent card for any black deck. It's always been a bit pricey to buy. That's why we didn't mention it in like our value episode. But now no one's got any excuse. It's in a really cool black-white deck with some... It's probably the highlight of the reprints for that deck by some way. So, yeah, not much more to say about those 2 cards. One's a really good removal and one's a really good ramp card in a colour that doesn't normally ramp. That's a lie. Black ramps really well. But you know what I mean.
Yep.
Yeah, I like both those picks. I think Daxos, the Returned, is the highlight of the deck, though.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm looking forward to Karlov, to be honest. Daxos is very... I've already started brewing a Daxos, so it really is. But Karlov flicks my imagination center.
Yeah, it's definitely a build-around card, and if I may, Sean, just a little analysis. You like really tricky and subtle cards.
Oh, thanks.
I tend to be more straightforward, and some of my picks later on reflect that. And Nate is also he likes tricky cards, but trick like he's hiding a club behind his back.
Hey, what's that behind you?
Yeah, exactly. Wham. So we asked our followers on Twitter and also our community on Facebook about which commanders had them most excited to brew. And so for each of these decks, we had a couple of comments. At Skugiz, who is Anders Skoglund, he writes that Daxos will replace Obzadat in his half-made black-white enchantments build. And yes, absolutely it should.
Yep.
Nyarlathotep.
Oh, let me say that, you heathen.
Nyarlathotep.
No, it's
bro.
Nyarlathotep. God's sake. Nyarlathotep, bro. That's one of the Cthulhuian gods.
Nyarlathotep.
Nyarlathotep.
No, the T
crass.
and the H do not make a th in that case. Hotep is a single word in itself.
Nyarlathotep.
No. Nyarlathotep.
Right. Me and you both need to perform a seance. Summon up the spirit of
I
H.P.
think you
Lovecraft.
need to study Egyptian languages more before you start talking, buddy.
That is not an Egyptian name. That is a mythos name.
You are both correct and incorrect. It is an Egyptian name within the Cthulhu mythos.
So I am the Schrodinger's cat of pronunciation of Cthulhuian names. I am both correct and incorrect.
My microphone gets angry at your insolence.
Yes. I think it's when you squeeze your microphone, Nate.
I will not concede a language point to an American as long as I am good enough to draw breath. So at
right.
Johnny Crass says...
That's right, Nate. Remember, he's British. He will not give up.
So,
until
well,
he is
he'll still
dead.
be wrong, but he'll be dead and wrong. So,
Other opinions are available to mine. It just so happens mine is the correct one.
I mean, your son will grow up without a father, Sean.
He's English. He already will be. You know, we like to be cold and distant.
It's kind of scary when Nate says that. So what does at Johnny_Crass say? Karlov is going to be singing Hey Soul Sister for me. Johnny Crass, maybe you can explain that a little bit more once you hear this
A
episode.
reference to the awful song Hey Soul Sister by the band Train.
Yeah.
Which, if Nate wasn't currently getting a drink, he would agree. They are an awful band, and that is an awful song.
Okay, what'd I miss?
Nate, just yes or no to this statement. The band Train are awful, and the song Hey Soul Sister is an equally awful song.
I'm not familiar with either.
Well, don't check it out, listeners. It's terrible music.
So Natalie Vervey, who is at Cardboard Nirvan, writes, is the Karlov an intentional tribute to Karloff? If only he were a vampire.
Well, Boris Karloff, he was Nosferatu, was he?
Yep.
Is also Frankenstein's monster.
He was, yeah.
That's right, yeah.
Which, this Ghost Council guy is neither a vampire nor a zombie.
Right, which is really unfortunate. They sort of missed an opportunity.
It's a generic Hammer horror name that's tribute, I think. So, yeah.
If this is not song parody fodder, then I don't know what is. She also writes, also, Daxos looks like an underworld Rod Stewart, circa, do you think I'm sexy in that pose?
He's not wearing enough leopard print.
Maybe that will inspire a certain songwriter or two.
Okay.
Or three.
So before Nate reaches through the internet and kills me for being incorrect about anything, shall we move on to the next deck?
Mm-hmm.
Which I believe is called Size Control. Is that correct, Nate?
Seize control. Because this deck has blatant thievery in it. It's blue-red instants and sorceries. It's got Mizzix of the Ismagnus, who is the better version of Melek Izzet Paragon, who is also in this deck. And the third legend, the new one, is Arjun the Shifting Flame, who is, well, he's, okay. So half of this precon deck is geared toward Mizzix and Melek, both together, kind of interchangeable, but Mizzix is better. They're dropping spell bombs in blue and red. Now, Mizzix, he's an interesting puzzle, and he's more interesting than Melek, in my humble opinion, and will include Mizzix and Melek in a later Big Mana episode at some point. Now, the other half of this precon deck, it has the type of card draw where you could just put Niv Mizzet the Firemind as the commander of the deck, and it would play much better with that one change. And this new third commander, Arjun the Shifting Flame, he seems specifically designed to be Niv Mizzet the Firemind's lieutenant.
So, do you like the spell Mind Moil? Which basically does, whenever you cast a spell, put the cards in your hand into the bottom of your library in any order, then draw that many cards. Because that's all Arjun is he's Mind Moil on a 5/5 flyer with a point of blue in his casting cost.
Yep.
I was hoping they would do something cool with Izzet, but they appear to have just reprinted Mind Moil and improved Melek.
This is the deck that is most disappointing to me. Because, yeah, all they did was double down on the Izzet spellcasting abilities, right? I had really hoped, because of Origins and because of some of the other cards they've released in the last year, that we were going to see a blue-red artifact-friendly deck.
Yeah, I was looking for a Izzet Thopter Queen or something.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be awesome.
Yeah. And now, because of the way they're cycling through the commander sets, and I bet the next one is allied colors,
Yep.
right? We're not going to see anything unless it's released in one of the normal sets, and that means that we have to see an artifact-friendly world with red and blue as a thing.
That's not Innistrad and it's not Zendikar, so not this year.
Right.
Or this coming 12 months.
Maybe Karn will wake up and shake off his Phyrexian shackles and stir up some narrative there.
He's already been cured.
He's liberated.
Yep.
Starting new games of Magic all around the country.
So for this particular deck, again, looking at how to play it, right? Daxos was pretty straightforward because you play Daxos and then you play as many enchantments as you can. This deck is all about the sorceries. Oh, you know what? We didn't read Mizzix of the Ismagnus.
You read it, Phil.
All right. Oh, because it's so much like Melek. It's 2 and blue and a red for a legendary creature goblin wizard. A 2/2. Legendary creature goblin wizard. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell with a converted mana cost greater than the number of experience counters you have, you get an experience counter. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each experience counter you have. That's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, it's like how Animar works for creatures.
Yep, for instants and sorcery.
He's better than Melek because he's 2 mana less to cast.
Oh, yeah.
My problem with Melek has always been his ginormous CMC for no particularly good reason. Hey, here's a thought with Mizzix. If you were to take him in a different direction, could you make him the commander of a Goblin tribal deck, but that also has blue in it? Goblin tribal decks tend to run a lot of instants and sorceries that dump more goblins onto the table. And then you've got access to super badass card draw as well.
That's pretty interesting.
I think this deck certainly is missing... It has the Goblin Electromancer, I believe, but it is missing Gutter Snipe, which was reprinted recently in other Commander sets, but should be in this one.
Yes, it should.
Yes. We'll get to tuning at some point in the future.
Quick question, though, right? So, without going into that tuning, I can actually hear it coming from all three of us. We're all pretty much building, I think, the same decks with both these commanders. Like, the Mizzix deck's going to be fairly straightforward to build, and everyone's going to put very similar types of spells in. The Arjun deck is going to basically be a Nev Mizzet deck, which Nate has already pointed out. Melek is not going to be the commander unless you have Mizzix in there, or like you'll just choose your poison, which of those 2 guys you want as your commander for that deck you have. It's basically just that deck. And that's why I was saying at the beginning, I think this deck is disappointing in that they didn't do anything new with Izzet when they really could have.
Yeah. Okay, you can hear the disappointment in our voices. But if someone were to play this, then this deck is clearly all about the sorceries and instants where they appear. As we've already mentioned, it's effectively a big mana deck.
Yeah, there's 20 instants in this deck.
Basically, you should only ever be casting an instant or sorcery for the colored mana in its cost, right? Because every time you cast one, and obviously you have to cast one that costs more each time, but each time you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you should get an experience counter, and then be able to cast the next one for 1 less, which means you've effectively reached sort of homeostasis.
You can play All Is Dust for free at some point.
Yeah, at some point.
Scour from Existence, for free as well.
And, of course, Ghost Flame. So we'll be talking about Mystics in a future Big Mana episode. My favorite cards from this deck are not any of the instants or sorceries. And one other thing, they did not put Galvanoth in here. And if you're going to be messing with instants and sorceries, you just need Galvanoth.
Yes, you do.
So my favorite cards are, what's the French version is Une de Pensée, right, which is Thought Vessel. 2 mana artifact that eliminates your hand size, so you have no maximum hand size, and you can tap it to add 1 colorless mana to your mana pool. This is a staple now, right? There's do you see any reason not to play this card?
Yeah, if you're running Spellbook, you take Spellbook out and replace it with this. If you care about drawing and having a big hand size, just take out one of your other crappy mana rocks and put this in. Instead, it's only 2 to. It's just great.
Like I'd straight up replace a Signet if I were that tight.
This is going to be one of them cards that annoys the professor, I think, because he's going to see what you've just said as.
Yeah, I tweeted at him that this was one of those cards that he was talking about on our show. My other favorite card, which is a reprint, of course, is Psychosis Crawler. It's a 5 mana artifact creature horror, and it's an ***. Psychosis Crawler's power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in your hand. And whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. This is a lovely card that I am so glad is reprinted without a watermark.
You don't know that it's not going to have a watermark on it.
And both of them go in Niv Mizzet the Firemind.
Yeah,
that's
do.
right.
And they go in Nekasar as well.
Someone is... Sorry, I didn't expect it. That's why I'm laughing. I scroll down and I see Gigantoplasm.
You haven't looked at the art yet?
No, I've looked at the art. I just didn't expect it in this. Like, I didn't know that it was in here. Is this one of yours, Nate?
So Gigantoplasm. He's from this precon. He's 3 and blue. He's a 0/0 creature shapeshifter. And you may have Gigantoplasm enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it gains X. Pay X. This creature has base power and toughness XX.
That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's the mirror entity ability.
So you go into every deck that runs clone, and you take out clone and put this in instead, if not as well as.
Yeah, and it lets you copy very cheap creatures on the battlefield. So if there's only a 1/1, you can copy it, and it doesn't feel bad.
Yeah,
you don't have to feel bad about it. And those, what is it? The blood artists.
Yes.
You can have a blood artist enter the battlefield and suddenly become very, very big. So, Nate, what's your second one there?
Oh, I got Aether Snatch. It's another new one. And in the spoilers, this one has, it's Japanese text, but the translation is, 4 blue and blue, it's an instant. Gain control of target spell. You may choose new targets for that spell. Oh, and if that spell is a permanent, that permanent enters the battlefield under your control.
That's excellent. That's Spelljack.
Spelljack, Commandeer, and Desertion.
And it's only one more, but it gives you that flexibility.
Well, it's cheaper than Spelljack, because it's the same CMC, but it's only 2 blue instead of 3.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's better than Spelljack.
Cool. So, Sean, what are yours? These are great cards, Nate. I'm going to hate seeing them across the table.
Now, what's everyone's favourite Is It mechanic? That's right, Overload. So I picked a juicy brand new Overload card, which is Mizzix Mastery. 3 and a red for a sorcery. Exile target card that's an instant or sorcery spell from your graveyard. For each card exiled this way, copy it, and you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost, then exile Mizzix Mastery. What? That's terrible, I hear you say. Why has it got that weird text on it? Because you can overload it for 5 and 3 red. That's right, 8 mana. But it exiles every card in your graveyard, every instant sorcery, and cast them again for free.
And it does cast them.
It does cast them, yes.
That's right. So if you've got some kind of storm thing going on, or triggers on cast abilities.
So, Phil, how does Overload interact with Mizzix of the Ismagnignus?
Well, Sean, as you know, Rule 117.9D, it's lovely that our game has rules formatted that way, says if an alternative cost is being paid to cast a spell, any additional cost increases, and cost reductions that affect that spell are applied to that alternative cost.
That is interesting.
What's her name? Mizzix of the Ismagnus. Her ability does apply to Mizzix's Mastery's Overload cost. Good lord, enough with the Mizzix names.
Yeah. For a guild that's meant to be imaginative, not very imaginative when it comes to naming. Boop! Are they?
Well, I think the Dragon enforces a nomenclature. That's the blue part of the guild.
You will all be in the mizzle.
He's a huge Snoop Doggy Dogg fan.
All right. Yeah, those are excellent cards, guys. And actually, I'm looking forward to trying each of these, and we will have to each try each one. And at the same time, I just wish they had gone with an artifact theme. It would have been different.
My favourite reprint card, I won't go too long on this one, is Blatant Thievery, which is 4 and 3 blue. For each opponent, gain control of target permanent that player controls. This effect does not end at the end of turn. So 7 mana. I'm going to take the 3 best permanents off of, the best permanent off each of my opponents. I mean, brilliant. And it was getting a little bit pricey, that card, and a nice reprint, hopefully with some cleaner text, is a lovely card to see reprinted.
That owl took my candy.
That owl did take my... I've never noticed how much that necklace, because of the gravity, it looks like a lollipop before.
Yeah, I love that card. think it was you guys, actually, who showed me how much I should love that card.
It was discussed in our very first episode in Dragonlord Silumgar, yeah, with my terrible microphone. Cool. So, community comments very quickly. Russell, friend of the show, Russell, says, Fire Sphinx.
At Rogue Artificer.
Fire Sphinx. Niv Mizzet loves drawing cards that doesn't involve decking yourself. Yep, that's a good point. You can kill someone with an infinite loop with a Curiosity. Niv Mizzet's an iron out.
And Alex Zato, who is at Alex CK Zato, will always butcher that, I think, until we hear him say it. Mizzix of the Ismagnus, because she is the first and only legendary goblin wizard. Very true. Very true.
Yeah, they're not going to do an artifact red deck so soon after Duretti.
I know, but we can hope.
Can but dream. So, deck 3.
Right, and so just to be clear, the community comments are in response to which cards make you most interested in brewing around them.
Yeah, that was the question we asked. So, deck 3, Plunder the Graves.
Yes.
Now, Nate, was I getting a feeling you were most interested in this one?
This is the one I'm the most optimistic about. I like the most cards in this deck. It's a black-green sacrifice-based deck. And the nominal leader is Marin of Clan Nel Toth. 2 black and a green legendary creature. Human Shaman 3/4. Whenever another creature you control dies, you get an experience counter. Okie doke. At the beginning of your end step, choose target creature card in your graveyard. If that card's converted mana cost is less than or equal to the number of experience counters you have, return it to the battlefield. Otherwise, return it to your hand.
That's so good.
Yeah, so if anyone was getting tired of Carador and wanted to make a version without all that icky white in it, then go ahead. I'm going to be trying Marin with a Shadowborn Apostles approach.
Marin's going straight into my Jared deck.
I think Marin should be the Jared deck.
Yeah, and Jared is in this deck.
He is. He's been reprinted.
This one is great. It's the only one, I believe, the only experience counter granting card that actually works with what your opponent is doing.
Yes.
So if your opponent board wipes and this is out, you get all those experience counters.
Or if you board wipe.
Or if you board wipe, exactly. And it's incredible. I really am looking forward to this. Yeah, it's Carador without having to cast anything.
Now, I think it's a toss-up between the next commander from this same deck, between what is the sort of most raw power out of these new commanders, and that is Mazarek Kral Death Priest. 3 and a black and a green for a legendary creature, Insect Shaman. It's a flying 2/2 creature. Whenever a player sacrifices another permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Dear God, that's disgusting.
Yeah, that goes into Shattergang Brothers, but Mazarek can probably hold their own deck.
My first thought was Mazarek would make an excellent old-school Eldrazi commander. Yeah, this is a dirty card.
It should come
it's lovely.
Packaged with a Grave Pact and a Dictate of Erebos in every pack. I know it's not been printed with those cards, but blimey, Charlie.
Well, again, they seem to have shied away from the obvious synergies, right?
I mean,
at least a lot.
I could tell you the community won't shy away from the obvious synergies, and that's
right.
Disgusting.
Yeah, it really is. This is the one I was most excited about, if only because Azuri is a Phyrexian. But
Nate, you've listed some quality artifacts that come in this deck.
Yeah, this deck has a good set of high-quality artifacts. It has a small set of artifacts, but the ones it has are the ones that I want. It has Skull Clamp, it has Soul Ring, it has Lightning Greaves, it has Eldrazi Monument, and it has a couple of others.
So Lightning Greaves is an interesting one there, because in every other Commander product, it's had Swiftfoot Boots, and then suddenly 2 of these decks have got Lightning Greaves in. Why?
Yeah, they reprinted the Lightning Greaves early on.
Oh, did they? I must have missed that. But
yeah, and Greaves really hasn't seen a reprint since then. I think I look at this deck, and I think this is probably the best deck out of, or at least these are the best commanders out of all the new commanders.
Eldrazi
Maybe
Monument.
that's just because.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know.
I don't own an Eldrazi Monument. I pretty much do now because I've pre-ordered these decks, but
Yeah, I suspect you may end up owning a Japanese Eldrazi Monument.
Oh, sir. Saucy.
My favorite cards, I actually left an obvious choice out because I just think it's, obvious choice is obvious. So I put the Bloodspore Thrynax. Bloodspore Thrynax is 2 in green for a creature lizard. So we all love lizard tribal. It has Devour 1, which is great. So it gets a +1/+1 counter if you sacrifice a creature when it comes into play, and you can do that any number of times. And each other creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on Bloodspore Thrynax. That's pretty good.
There's ways of breaking that. That's the kind of card my brain goes, what does that combo with to get silly fast?
Then my favorite reprint from this, and it's actually not my favorite reprint, but it's a pretty good one. I've always wanted an Extractor Demon. 4 in black, flying demon, 5/5 flying demon, rather. Whenever another creature leaves the battlefield, you may have target player put the top 2 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Just the utility of that is wonderful. It goes into Sidisi, it goes into the Mimeoplasm. I'm sure Lazov will enjoy it. And of course it has Unearth for 2 and a black, but that's secondary.
Nate, you had some cards for this one, didn't you?
Yeah, I was surprised Phil didn't pick Pathbreaker Ibex.
Yeah, that was obvious choice is obvious. I really, really, really want to play with Pathbreaker, and I think Pathbreaker will go into every green deck I own, especially like Marith is going to see
like
it.
Every deck that already has a Craterhoof Behemoth.
Every deck already has Craterhoof, yes, and we'll find room for it. It might even replace an Overrun.
So, Nate, what did you choose?
Out of each of these decks, there's a new Confluence card. And I think one of the best ones is Wretched Confluence, 3 black instant. Most of them are sorceries. This one's an instant. You choose 3 of the following effects, and you may choose the same mode more than once. Number 1, target player draws a card and loses 1 life. Number 2, target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. Number 3, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand.
It's super flexible.
Yeah, it really is. It's a wonderful commander card, isn't it?
And my next choice is a reprint that I actually didn't even know existed until I looked through this deck list. Tribute to the Wild. 1 and a green, instant. Each opponent sacrifices, I like it already, an artifact or enchantment.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, and it's a good thing they did not print a commander that gets a +1/+1 counter every time a player sacrifices another permanent. Oh, yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful card.
Okay, yeah, that's good. So, my 2 picks. My new card I chose was what I like to call the Political Eternal Witness. Skullwinder. 2 and a green for a creature snake, 1/3 with Death Touch. So it's already not too bad. Not great, but not terrible. When Skullwinder enters the battlefield, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Then you choose an opponent. That player returns a card from their graveyard to their hand. So 1 or 2 things happen here when you cast this card. 1, you choose an opponent that has an empty graveyard. Or 2, you choose an opponent that you're in political cahoots with and make a deal. Strike the pose. I mean a deal.
Yeah, this is going to be an awfully fun card.
Yeah. And I'm actually thinking of replacing a few Eternal Witnesses with it. I'm probably going to replace the Eternal Witnesses in my decks that run Mikaeus in, because Mikaeus the Unhallowed doesn't give Persist to the Eternal Witness, but it will to Skullwinder. Sorry, Undying, not Persist, but yeah, you know what I mean. The other card reprint I chose was Eldrazi Monument, which I'll very quickly read, but it's a brilliant card. 5 for an artifact. Creatures you control get +1/+1, have flying, and are indestructible. at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature if you can't sacrifice Eldrazi Monument. I mean, pure power. And there's someone drag racing in my street.
Sean has moved to a racetrack, in case anyone was wondering.
Silverstone, only the classiest racetracks for me.
Yeah, I'm glad they reprinted Eldrazi Monument because I only have one, and the price has gotten up really high. It's a good card.
I only have one now.
Yes, that's true. So, Natalie Vervey, who is, as a reminder, at Cardboard Nirvan, says, "For me, Merrin, yet I am not 100% sure why. Probably because the challenge of brewing across so much converted mana cost."
What?
Merrin's a really good card, Natalie, so I think we understand your desire to brew with
If you
it.
slap out a Merrin deck and say, "Oh, this is a real challenge, this deck, I'm playing without power," Natalie, and I play with Natalie quite a lot. We talk. I'll have a few choice words for you, lady.
And may already have had them.
Yeah, it's true.
Bruce, who is at Reserve List, says, "That new black-green insect, Mazarek, he goes well with Obnix Unshackled. Throw in the group ramp cards, tokens, and slaughter pacts."
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one. I love Golgari.
Yeah, it's so great. Especially in comparison with the red-white deck we're about to go into. Wade into battle. Red-white. Giant tribal with a side of angel. That's beautifully written, Nate.
Wade into a giant mountain of bollocks.
It has 3 legendary creatures like all the rest. The reprint is Gazella, Blade of Gold Knight. We really like her.
Yeah, she's good.
Yeah, but we've just
Difficult
had
deck to build, but still.
We've just had a reprint of her.
Well, we just had another one. And the new commanders are Kalemne, Disciple of Eroas, who is a 2 and a red-white for a legendary creature giant soldier. Okay, there's a soldier sub-theme going in this set. She's a 3/3, and whenever you cast a creature spell with converted mana cost 5 or greater, you get an experience counter.
Okay.
That's so disappointing. Okay, and Kalemne, Disciple of Eroas, gets +1/+1 for each experience counter you have. Great.
I have some strong opinions on this card I'll go into once you finish reading, Anya.
So my thought was, okay, so they want to slow red-white down because red-white is so fast at dominating in this format that...
If we're going to discuss Kalemne, I thought about it a lot. Because this was the first card that got spoiled, I've had a lot of time to think about it. So...
we all thought it was a joke because it was kind of bad.
Let's look at it. Right, so actually as a card, it's not terrible if you're running a commander damage style deck. Yeah, double striking vigilance on a commander is pretty good. But it's in Boros. So what does Boros like to do traditionally? It likes to cast lots of tiny, weeny, low CMC creatures that build up an army and team that help you. So it's actually against your primary strategy in your colours to have it trigger off of CMC 5 or greater. The second point, and this point is more a Vorthosy thing, but it annoys the living poop out of me. She's Kalemne, Disciple of Iroas, but Iroas, God of Victory, doesn't trigger her because he's only CMC 4. For God's sake. I just like...
Maybe you'll like the... I know. It's just... she's not triggered by her god. That's great.
Yes. Oh my God. Or not.
Okay, so the second new commander, maybe this is much more of a Boros commander for you.
Oh, she's a Boros commander in her colours and abilities, but her rest of it's nonsense.
Anya, Merciless Angel. Anya, for 3 and a red-white, legendary creature Angel, 4/4, flying. Anya, Merciless Angel, gets +3/+3 for each opponent whose life total is less than half his or her starting life total. As long as an opponent's life total is less than half his or her starting life total, Anya has indestructible.
That's such a terrible card. And I'll tell you why. Because it's a commander damage card, because it's going to gain +3/+3 for each opponent whose life total is less.
Yep.
Which means to get the commander damage in quickly with her, you have to deal them loads of non-commander damage first.
You notice how Bastion Protector is in the Daxos deck and not in this deck?
Oh, Nate. Your theory is true.
Yeah.
I apologize for ever doubting you.
So there's not much to say about this. Nate, what do you think about it?
I like Blade of Selves,
Yeah.
and that's the main reason to get this deck. I would just get this deck to strip it for parts at best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Anya goes into a good Gisela deck. I don't know.
Gisela, like Giselle, the supermodel. That's how I guess it. That's a pure guess, but...
So, focus on giant tribal. If you draw angels, mulligan them away so that maybe you get more giants. There's enough giant tribal in here that Kalemne might be useful as a big beater. Yeah. So, my favorite wade into battle cards are, of course, Blade of Selves, the new card, Artifact 2. It's an artifact equipment for 2 mana, equip 4, and equipped creature has Myriad.
New ability.
We haven't discussed Myriad. Myriad is a new ability that says whenever it attacks, for each opponent other than defending player, you may put a token that's a copy of that creature onto the battlefield tapped and attacking that player or a planeswalker he or she controls. Then at the end of combat, you exile those tokens. So
at what point does the legend rule apply?
Immediately. So they see each other enter, then they disappear. So if they, for example, Vela the Nightclad had this on and you were playing a 5-player game, it would create 3 tokens of Vela, then 3 would die, triggering her 4 times 3, so 12 damage.
And Reaper King.
Oh,
right. But more.
God, I didn't even think of Reaper King. Yeah.
More mundane uses are Terastodon. I think a friend of the show, Nick Jarogoski, has pointed out that Avenger of Zendikar is awfully fun with this. And even though legendary creatures wouldn't necessarily survive to do damage, the others certainly do, and of course they bring their buddies.
Okay.
Or work their magic.
So without discussing too much, discussing with my roller derby friend Don Gingiovanni, who has started playing Commander. We were just discussing a list of interesting things to strap this to. So some of the more interesting ones: Massacre Worm, that can kill everyone. Butcher of Malakir, one-sided table wipe. Terastodon was brought up. He mentioned Sundering Titan before I pointed out that it was banned. Sepulchral Primordial essentially casts the best part of a Rise of the Dark Realms every time you attack with it.
And the 2 Titans in this deck, right, Sun Titan and Inferno Titan, really work well with this.
Oh, yeah, ton of damage and get a load of stuff back out your graveyard.
Yeah.
So
just think, enters the battlefield effects or infect.
So I think this is the card most people have been on forums and Reddit, etc., have been complaining about and saying broken, which is a phrase I hate, but...
I think if we were to have done a watch list for this episode, this would have been the card.
Yes.
And certainly, maybe we should do a watch list after we actually play with it a bit.
I think the fact that once it comes down to 1v1, it literally does nothing. Once all opponents, apart from one opponent, is dead, it has no effect on the game whatsoever. But,
So, moving on to... I picked a reprint card as well, and it's Urza's Incubator. 3 in an artifact, and 3 for an artifact. When Urza's Incubator comes into play, choose a creature type. Creature spells of this chosen type cost 2 less to play. I'm not sure how we missed this in all of our tribal episodes recently.
No. I've even run it in tribal decks. The few tribal decks I play with have this card in.
Yeah, I just think we should be seeing a lot more of this, and we don't for whatever reason. Maybe because artifacts are so vulnerable. What are your favorite cards?
There's a really cool card. So we all know that one player. It's often me, but he sits there with 20-odd cards in his hand, chuckling to himself. Everyone else is like, well, there's no way I can catch up with that. We all know that guy, right? Or gal. This card fixes that problem. It's the Sandstone Oracle. It's 7 mana for an artifact creature Sphinx, 4/4 with flying. When Sandstone Oracle enters the battlefield, choose an opponent. If that player has more cards in hand than you, draw cards equal to the difference. So, Joey Big Hand over there, you say, oi, you, I'm having the same amount of cards. That's great.
It costs 7, though.
7, yeah, but you only need it late game.
Yeah, and you're blinking this guy, or you're strapping the sword onto it, the Blade of Selves.
Yeah, and I quite like, I'll give Wizards a bit of credit here. It's in the white-red deck that has trouble drawing cards. So this is a way. I think this will become a bit of a regular in a lot of decks.
Yeah, I think it happens at the right time too.
Yeah.
Right, especially for white-red, you've probably cast most of your cards by the time you get to 7 mana on the board. Yeah, all around good card. This will probably see a lot of use, but we'll see.
My reprint card is a card that goes great with Blade of the Selves, but it's great in numerous decks I play, particularly Maelstrom Wanderer, and that is Warstorm Surge. We've spoken about it before, but it's 5 and a red for an enchantment. When a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player. Badoom! It ends games quickly if it doesn't get taken out fast.
Yeah. This card I used to think was just a little too expensive, but it's good.
It's kind of like backup Perforos.
Yep. And what is it, World at War?
Oh.
The other enchantment that does a similar thing, but it's whenever a creature enters the battlefield, its controller. So it's a little cheaper.
Yeah.
World at War is the double combat rounds for 2 turns.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of it. It'll come to me at some point.
War.
Yes, War, as we all know, is my favorite card. And so, listeners, I know that you're already telling us what it is, and we apologize for not remembering.
What do we think of Wade into the battle as general then?
I like Blade of Selves and Taurian Mauler, and there you go.
Yep.
Taurian Mauler for Giant Tribal, yeah?
Our community has similar feelings about it. We only had one comment from Nino, who is at Nino1Medina, and all Nino writes is Anya Boros Angels with 5 exclamation points.
5 exclamation points.
And I just don't think it's going to be Anya Boros Angels. I think Anya goes pretty well into Gisela.
Boros Angels, yeah.
All right, so moving on.
This one's interesting that we're moving on to. It's the last one.
Yes.
Probably the most subtle of the 5, I think.
Nate, do you want to read it?
Swell the Host. It's blue and green, and it's Weenies and Sword of Snake Tribal. And the commanders are Izuri Claw of Progress. I like this guy. He's 2, a green and a blue legendary creature elf warrior. He's a 3/3. Whenever a creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you get an experience counter. So Hornet Queen gives him 5 experience counters. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put X +1/+1 counters on another target creature you control, where X is the number of experience counters you have.
Yeah, he's all right.
Yeah, he's pretty good. And in colors that generate a lot of fairly low power tokens, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I wish his creature type was Cyber Elf.
Yes, Cyber Elf.
Yeah, he's got some kind of grafted equipment on, it looks like.
Yep. And if those of you who are interested in these things, search for Izuri Renegade Leader. You'll see what Izuri looked like all the way back in Scars of Mirrodin before he was perfected.
Oh.
Or
yes.
Completed?
Completed is the actual term.
Yeah, I think Izuri would make, this new Izuri would make a wonderful blue-green Infect Proliferate commander. And the supporting cards for that approach do definitely exist. I can make a deck around this guy, but those cards do not exist in this precon.
No.
Yeah.
We'll talk about him in the future. We'll probably play test these and then say what are we going to build forward from them. You get a Prime Speaker Zagana, who is a great Simic card draw engine of a commander. I'd just have her in the 99. She's in the 99 of a ton of my decks.
Yeah. She's a great utility creature, especially mid to late game when you've got something already mid-sized to big out.
Yeah.
And then there's this new one.
Keiseto.
This other new one. I guess I'll read it.
Yeah, you're in
Keiseto.
Japan. You should read it.
Keiseto Orochi Archmage. Or that would be Archurmaji. Legendary creature Snake Wizard 2/2. So it works with Izuri. For green and a blue, target creature can't be blocked this turn. If that creature is a snake. Hello, snake tribal. It gets +2/+2 until end of turn.
So,
what do you think?
So, it is a commander damage card, isn't it? Because you can trigger that ability more than once.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. I didn't think of that angle.
So
You're
he could do it to
absolutely right,
himself.
Yeah, he does it to himself repeatedly, becomes massive, and kills someone.
All of a sudden, there's a deck there, isn't
Yeah.
there?
No.
Yeah. hadn't considered that. Yeah, so the turn after it comes into play, you can go through with an unblockable 4/4 to do commander damage.
And the turn after that, if your mana is built properly, you can go through an unblockable 6/6. And suddenly they've taken 10 commander. Yeah. And he's only 3 mana to play.
And if that commander damage is also infect.
Well, yes, but you know.
So that's a turn 5 win, isn't it?
It's
Could be.
Could be much faster. But,
yeah.
Snake tribal's probably not super great because snakes are traditionally green or black. So I think in just green there might not be enough.
Oh, well, you get things like that Hydra.
And you got Mystic Snake and Coiling Oracle.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so I guess the play style with this, because you want to build up a team. I mean, obviously, Casado has a different, now it's clear, has a different play style than Izuri. So Casado is all about the commander damage. But Izuri is all about kind of building up a team and then unleashing doom. I picked cards from this particular deck that suit that pretty well. My new card choice is Arachnogenesis.
I like it.
It's an instant for 2 and a green. Yeah, it's a lot like spider spawning. An instant for 2 and a green. Put X1/2 green spider creature tokens with reach onto the battlefield, where X is the number of creatures attacking you. Hello. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by non-spider creatures. So that's awesome, because you get a bunch of creatures attack in. They're not going to cause any damage, so it's got the fog effect. But then they eat at least one of the creatures. All these little baby spiders jump all over it. If you don't like spiders, this image is terrible. The one we're describing right now.
Yeah.
Because the spiders will eat
So
you.
where Kalemni was a massive Vorthos fail, Archaeogenesis is a massive Vorthos win.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And of course, each of those little spider guys gives you an experience counter if Azuri is out. And the reprint card I chose is Caller of the Claw, also for 2 and a green. It's an elf for 2/2. Elf tribal. You may play Caller of the Claw, and this is from Onslaught?
Yeah, that is Onslaught, yes.
You may play Caller of the Claw anytime. Oh, so it has flash, so you can play it anytime you can play an instant. And when it enters the battlefield, put a 2/2 green bear creature token into play for each non-token creature put into your graveyard from play this turn.
Very nice.
So basically, yeah, you just you wait for a board wipe, and then
Flash it in.
Flash it in.
Yeah, that's just solid. Yeah, 3 mana.
Yeah, it's solid. And then Nate.
I like Arachnogenesis. I'm going to be playing that. I also like Scythe Claw, which is 5 colorless artifact equipment, living weapon. So you get a free 0/0 germ, and it gets +1/+1. And whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses half his or her life, rounded up. Equip 3. So you get a free quite a spike with a body attached to it. Maybe Maelstrom Wanderer, who gives everything haste, might want to throw this out here for free and smack people with it. And my reprint choice is... what was my reprint choice? Bane of Progress, which is 4 green creature elemental 2/2. When Bane of Progress enters the battlefield, destroy all artifacts and enchantments. Put a +1/1 counter on Bane of Progress for each permanent destroyed this way.
Yeah, Bane of Progress was only ever printed in a previous Commander product, so it's nice to see it reprinted here.
Indeed. I hate that card.
I
because I play a lot of enchantments and artifacts.
Yeah.
Sean?
So, my new card choice was a beautiful Phyrexian card.
Well, sir, I don't know if this is a Phyrexian card.
Well,
because,
Stop. I'm going to read the whole card, including the flavour text, and describe the picture, and then you tell me, listeners, whether you think this is a Phyrexian card or not. So, Synthetic Destiny. 4 and 2 blue for an instant. Exile all creatures you control. At the beginning of your next end step, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal that many creature cards, and put all cards revealed this way onto the battlefield. Then shuffle the rest of them revealed this way, the cards, back into your library.
And that's a fantastic card. I don't think we need to read any further because that really just encapsulates everything we need to know about.
To give you a little bit of the flavour text there, to Jin Gataxius, perfection is not only a goal, but a process. And
well, see, that's utterly irrelevant to this card.
The artwork is a living creature that has sloughed off its skin and has shown its true Phyrexian perfection underneath, mechanically walking through a sewer.
It looks like a bunch of creatures.
Yeah, it's a machine that's kind of going through and selecting creatures from a massive.
Still, listeners, is Synthetic Destiny a Phyrexian card or not? Tweet us at commanderin.mtg.
Well, also, then, and if they do choose to email us, cast@commanderin.mtg.com will work just as well.
Yes, that's true.
But I'm sure most of our listeners will demonstrate this is not a Phyrexian
So,
card.
Synthetic Destiny is stunningly good.
It really is.
It's if you've got a bunch of chaff out, boom. Like, I've got a load of crappy tokens, which Swell the Host is going to do. Sweep them all into the bin, get a load of massive beaters. Yeah, you may even get your Crate Hoof Behemoth out of your deck and go, look. No, it won't have... it's an instant speed as well. It's an instant. That makes it so much better.
Yeah. I mean, the obvious use is you generate a bunch of little tokens and then pop Synthetic Destiny and pull out all your big beaters at the end of your opponent's turn.
Or you could load your deck with really powerful enter the battlefield triggers and just do it for the enter the battlefield triggers for funsies. It's kind of like a Genesis Wave-ish, but with no X component. The cost is the creatures on the table. But wowzers. My reprint choice was one of my favourite cards from back in the day, which was Forgotten Ancient, which is 3 and a green for creature elemental, 0/3. Whenever any player casts a spell, you may put a +1/+1 counter on Forgotten Ancient. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may move any number of +1/+1 counters from Forgotten Ancient onto other creatures. That gets big really fast, or it buffs your team relatively fast. People really, really, really liked Managorger Hydra when it came out in Origins, and this is a slightly better version of that.
Yeah, it is. It's a great card.
Not too expensive to buy now, but a nice reprint.
Yeah, it is. It's a wonderful reprint. I've used it in a couple of decks, and it never really disappoints. So we have a community comment here from Chicken Lil Curry.
Good name.
Who's at Chicken Lil Curry. And Chicken is still brainstorming, but the new Azuri looks fun with a Simic token and +1/+1 counter theme. Yes, indeed.
Perhaps the new Azuri can do what Daggertar didn't.
Daggertar. No, I've been toying with the Daggertar deck. I want to keep toying with it, but one of our listeners actually submitted it, and once I think we put it through its paces in some more actual multiplayer games, we might have a different opinion about Daggertar.
Maybe. We shall see.
Maybe.
So that concludes our coverage of the 5 precon decks. We're going to play test the hell out of them, guys, and then report back to the listeners.
Yeah, I think it's entirely possible this might be a way to playtest some league rules too. So if you haven't already contacted us by Skype and or played with us, this might be your opportunity. It might be a really good time, rather, to contact us. Again, we are commanderin.mtg.podcast on Skype, and of course, if you reach out to us through Twitter and whatnot, we'll talk to you that way.
We certainly will.
And send you other details.
Okay, guys, I've got a new feature for you.
All right, what's this thing you've been talking about?
Tell you're excited. Especially you, Nate.
Yeah, you can hear it.
So it's a new game. Now, I've called this game Plus Who. That's something like that. You can write a theme tune for me if you want, Nate. Do, 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 do. Plus Who. Right, so... This is a game I've been playing with friend of the show Nick Jaragoski and listener Pete. And what it is it's a game where you have to guess the names of your favourite Planeswalkers cards. You're going to take it in turns, choose either an easy, normal, or tricky question, which give you 1, 2, or 3 points respectively. Then I spin the Wheel o' Walkers. You shout stop. Then I read you the corresponding easy, normal, or tricky power of them, and you have to name the Walker. Now, there are only a couple of rules. I have to accept your first answer, and you have to get the name of the Walker pretty much exact. No, it's one of the Jaces, and then that's your point. If you get it wrong, your opponent can gets a guess, and if they get it right, they steal your points. Any questions?
So now Nate and I are playing against each other.
Yes, you are. And your prize is, the winner, I will post you a jar of Branston Pickle.
Ooh.
Or any English chocolate bar of your choice.
All right, Nate, I'm game. You want to try this?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm certain, absolutely certain I'm going to do poorly.
Okay, so which of you wants to go first? I don't mind.
Nate, why don't
I'll
you
go
first?
Okay, Nate, I'm going to spin the Wheel of Walkers. Just tell me where to stop.
Stop.
Okay, do you want a 1 point, a 2 point, or a 3 point question? Power.
I think the only way to win this is to go 3 points. To bet high.
Okay. So, this is a +1 ability. Draw a card, then discard a card at random. Phil thinks he knows it.
Can I steal?
He has to give an answer or say, I don't know. That's +1. Draw a card, then discard a card at random.
I'm thinking Duretti Scrap Savant. That's probably wrong.
You are wrong, sir. Philip?
All right. That is the one, the only Tybalt.
Tybalt. Full name, please.
Oh, are there two Tybalts?
No,
Oh,
I still need the full name.
You got to give the whole name for
You have
it.
to give the whole name for it. That was part of the rules.
Done.
Done. Sorry, no points for you, sir. It was Tybalt the Fiend Blooded.
I was going to say the misbegotten.
Okay, well, Phil, lucky for you, get a chance to get some points anyway, because it's now your turn. It's a best of 3, guys.
All right.
So I'm now spinning the Wheel of Walkers. Tell me when to stop.
All right. Stop.
Okay, would you like a 1 point, a 2 point, or a 3 point question?
Bring on the 3 point. No. I want a 1 point.
All right, okay, so we're going for the ultimate. This is -5.
I'm gonna-
Destroy all other permanents except for lands and tokens.
That's what it says?
-5. Destroy all other permanents except for lands and tokens.
Is that Elspeth Knight Errant?
It is not Elspeth Knight Errant. Nate, care for a steal?
It sounds like an Elspeth. Elspeth. What's her last name? Tyrell.
It is Elspeth Tyrell. Nate gets a point. Boom!
You, Nate.
And he gets to go into the lead now because it's his round 2. Nate, I'm spinning the Wheel o' Walkers. Tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay. Do you want a 3 point, a 1 point, or a 2 point question? I don't know why I put them in that order, but...
3 point.
Okay, right. So this is relevant to this one. If the name of the Planeswalker is listed in the ability, I will just say this Planeswalker. So, +1. Until the end of turn, this Planeswalker becomes a legendary 4/4 red dragon creature with flying, indestructible, and haste.
Oh, come on.
That's gonna be somebody named Sarkin, and it's going to be a let's see, it's not Sarkin Vol. It's gonna be Sarkin the Dragon Speaker.
Yeah! 3 points today. He takes a 4 point.
How is that at all a 3 point?
Hey.
That is so wrong as a 3 point question.
The pluses are 3 points. The minuses are 2. We can revise. Don't rules lawyer this game. Don't.
All right.
Okay.
But I'm just saying the signature abilities like
He's
that.
only 4 but some of them are easier than others. Don't argue with me or no candy bar for you. Right, I'm spinning the Wheel of Walkers, Big Boss DeLuca. Tell me when to stop.
Yes, as one of my street friends called me. Stop.
Okay, right. So, do you want 3 points, 2 points or 1 point. You are 4 points behind, may I remind you, Phil.
I've got to go 3 points.
Okay. There's a +1 ability. Untap up to 2 target artifacts. Can you hear the cogs grinding, listeners?
It's
Untap up to 2 target artifacts.
it's a Tezzeret. Is it Tezzeret Agent of Boros?
It is not a Tezzeret Agent of Boros, Nate. Would you care to steal for a point?
This game sucks.
He's only going to be 5 points ahead. You get a point for a steal. Nate?
Oh, that's Tezzeret the Seeker, of course.
It is, and it gets a point. Boom. Now, it is mathematically impossible for Phil to win now.
He's got to say it again, though, because it was
So what is it?
Oh, it's Tezzeret the Seeker.
It is Tezzeret Metal Arm himself, the Seeker. Well done. You get a
A
bonus
feature
point for
of
that.
both Memnarch and Reaper King decks.
Yeah, he is. Oh.
Yes, both of which you play.
Yes, he does. Right.
How about a green Planeswalker?
Hey, you told me when to stop on the Wheelo Walkers. So, it's Nate, it's your turn to take a commanding lead. Tell me when to stop on the Wheelo Walkers.
Stop!
Okay, right. Would you like a plus? Remember, you can't lose.
Let's make it a +1 just to make sure that Phil has no chance.
A 1 point question, right. So, this is -8. My 1 point question, yeah. -8. Search your library for any number... Wait for the complaining from Phil listeners. Search your library for any number of dragon creature cards, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library.
That also sounds Sarconic. Let's say
You're just softballing Nate. That's ridiculous.
that was not Sarkhan Vol, and it's the other Sarkhan. It's
There
the
are
newest
4
Sarkhan,
Sarkhans.
who is Sarkhan Unleashed. It's not Sarkhan it's Sarkhan something. It's
I
the
have to
newest
accept your
Sarkhan.
first answer, which was
then let me
Sarkhan
steal it.
Unleashed. So steal it, Phil. Phil, it's your steal. I have to accept his first answer, which was incorrect.
Sarkhan the Unbroken.
It is Sarkhan Unbroken. Phil gets a
Sarkhan
Sarkhan the Unbroken.
We're going to forget prepositions. And
But I was closer. I had the word unbroken in there.
I'll tell you what. Timmy, should we give Phil a 1 bonus point? Bear in mind he can't win. 1 ring for yes, 2 rings for no.
So
Timmy has spoken. Sarkhan Unbroken
All right.
gets a point. Nate, it's a pity point. Don't worry about it. And the last...
So listeners,
There's one more. You still get one more guess for listeners.
one
Yeah,
more.
you went second. Right, tell me when to stop on the
Stop.
Wheeler Walkers. Okay. Would you like a 3 point? He's only beating... If you get a 3 point, he only wins by a point.
yeah, I'll take a 3 point.
Okay. Okay, right. So, last one. This is quite a tricky one, Phil. +1. Target permanent doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. That's target permanent doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step.
I hate blue Planeswalkers.
Okay.
Oh, that's Tamio, the Moon Sage.
Incorrect. Nate?
Oh, you suck. Listeners,
Oh, it's
we
not
experiment
Tamio?
with new things.
It is not Tamio, no.
Oh, well, then it's got to be Johnny.
It is Johnny?
Johnny Steadfast?
No, it is Johnny Vengeant. You might hate blue Planeswalkers, Phil. That's why you got a red-white one.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tamio
great.
taps a Planeswalker card before keeping it tapped.
Okay, this segment sucks.
That's 6-1. No, sorry, it's 5-1 to Nate there.
I got 2.
Did you? Oh, you got an extra steal, didn't you? Sorry, it's 5-2. 5-2 to Nate there. So, Nate, you get to go either have a jar of Branston Pickle or an English chocolate bar, and I'll get that sent out to you.
Yay! I like the Branston Pickle.
I recommend a double decker.
Yep.
Oh, I'll get you some Branston Pickle. No problem. And
So, listeners, we apologize for the preceding segment.
listeners would have enjoyed that.
We do some exploration here on the show of new segments, and sometimes they just don't survive. I'm pretty certain this one is going to end up in
It's
the
a
bin
keeper.
as
If Phil won that, right, he'd be saying it's the best segment ever. Instead, he's merely crying as he listens to Nate chow down on some Branston pickle and crackers.
These grapes are sour. Actually, it was a good segment. It was fun. I think that has legs, especially as we involve our listeners in it.
Yes. We could play it with guests.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We'll play it with guests. That's great, Sean. I can't wait for our next guest, whoever that may be, who we may have invited on the air and who has accepted publicly as well.
Excellent.
Anyway, yes. So we love our listeners and viewers and guests. You folks are a lot of fun. You tell us what you think, and you playtest decks with us. And I suspect we're going to be playtesting a lot of decks in the near future, maybe even as part of some sort of league, listener league. So please take the time to contact us, and if you really like us, give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. This is the customary Phil begs for stuff. It really makes us feel good about doing this podcast.
Does it make you feel like a man, Phil?
It does, Sean. It does. There's precious little in this world that does that, and 5-star ratings on iTunes really do. Most importantly, we can point to it and say, hey, check that out, because there are some people, wizards, who care about these things. And, of course, that translates into better shows for you folks. So our theme song was created for the podcast by Nate Burgess. Our logo was created for the podcast by Mr. Picto with assistance from Kelle DeLuca. And special thanks to our tech whizzes, Jessie, Thomson, and Graham Frank, and to Justin for his service.
Cheers, Justin.
Woohoo! You can reach us by going to our website, commanderin.mtg.com. The www. is optional on that. Our email is cast@commanderin.mtg.com. You can find us on iTunes, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, mtgcast.com, and Reddit by searching for commanderin.mtg.podcast. And, of course, now on Skype as commanderin.mtg.podcast. Individually on Twitter, I'm at Ketjak.
I am at Copain26.
I'm at Mr. Plorg.
Dun.
And that is our show.
Yeah!
Commanderin!
Yeah!
Cool, blimey, I like big bloomers.